I wanted to go out and share with kids and people that, that I know that are struggling out there. And I see a lot of them and I know some of them and stuff. And I said, I would love to get my message out there that there's hope for you, you know, focus on what you can do and and manage around your shortcomings.
Got me diagnosed when I was in third grade. And it was the most relieving day of my life because I finally had like kind of a place to hang my hat and say, see, I told you I'm not lazy, definitely not stupid. I just learned differently and like that's totally okay.
We dyslexics, we were often, just set up for failure because, we were given books and tasks that really are not appropriate for the level that we were at.
So how do you expect anyone to be open to learning when their entire relationship with reading, with learning, is physical pain?
Wish I had understood when I was younger that the fact that my brain worked differently than people meant that I would be good at things in ways that other kids were not going to be good
I
at.
just assumed I can't be dyslexic because letters don't jump up and down for me.
Dyslexia is not a disorder. It is not a disease.
Once you sort of own it and embrace it, then you can have the power to deal with it. It's sort of empowering and also enriching to the whole community.
To those who don't understand what dyslexia is, that it's not a negative, it's not a problem, it's like we keep saying superpower.
Hey everyone, we are Sonia and Nick, and this is Dyslexia Journey. And today we are welcoming Jeffrey McCain as part of our Dyslexic Voices series.
Wonderful. I'm glad to join you and look forward to our conversation here.
Great.
Yeah, and we're very eager to talk about your book. But before we do that, let's go back a bit, of course. We like to hear about people's journey as a dyslexic person. And so I'm wondering if you could share kind of going way back, like sort of your earliest memories or, probably before you even knew you were dyslexic, what that was like for you.
Sure. So I grew up in Southern California in the mid-1950s. Went to school like the rest of the kids, looked like the rest of the kids. Thought I was like the rest of the kids till about third grade. Then I found out that I wasn't. They were learning to read and write, and I couldn't. So teachers, my mom, and they all worked together, and tried to get me to get up to speed. But they thought, well, maybe fourth grade he'll catch up. Well, it just got worse. Fourth grade was worse than the third and fifth, and so on. Somehow or another. I was a pretty determined, clever young boy, so I figured out how to get through school. But reading and writing was not one of them. The things like art classes and when high school and wood shops and all that kind of stuff, that was in my wheelhouse. I always, as a young kid, liked building things and making things, and there was really nothing I couldn't do as far as that goes. So I graduated high school in 1970. My parents had an electrical contracting company that worked out of their house, and I had two older brothers, 3 and 4 years older, and I had been going to work with my dad every chance I could during, summer times and all that kind of stuff. And so I was pretty proficient at being an electrician at the time I got out of school. So that was like the best day of my life. Everyone else thought it was they were going to go to college and everything. To me, I was counting the minutes when I would be getting up in the morning, going to work versus to school. School was, to this day, was not a good time for me. Sitting in the back of the class, just hoping, crossing my fingers that no one would ask questions, and wasn't a problem child, and so somehow or another I made it through school, but. As I look back, I think I learned a lot in school. I think it shaped my whole mind, how I would think. I knew I was smart. I just couldn't learn. And so what I had to do and what I did do is I said, Jeff, you're a smart kid. You may not be able to read and write, but you can do other things. Focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. I mean, I believe I had these conversations. I had plenty of time. I'm very visual and be able to see this stuff. So I did that, and I went on to be extremely successful. And I never looked back. I never told one person about my learning disabilities. My brother, that's 4 years older, the only part of my family that's alive anymore, he read the book here and a month or two ago, a couple months ago, and we sat down for breakfast, and he goes there and he goes, I had no idea that you had learning disabilities like this. And here I was running the company.
Yeah.
I mean, and he goes, Mom, Dad, Gene, and all of us, we had no idea how you knew how to do all these things. But you were on a different planet than we were, but we didn't know you couldn't read or write either.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so it's kind of strange, but I went on. I mean, I've won awards after awards, Entrepreneur of the Year in San Diego in 2009, and did all these wonderful things. I sold the company about 2017, I guess now, and it was the largest traffic signal company in the U.S. There's tens of millions of signals throughout the U.S. My name on them and everywhere. But I just show up for work. I was just another employee and just focused. I worked every day like I was my first day at work, and I loved what what I was doing. But anyway, after I sold the company, I had this time on my hands, and I'm sitting around. What do I do? I get in the car every day before going to work and doing this and that, and I'm here, and I had some other things I wanted to do, but I realized the wind at my back that built all that stuff was my learning disabilities.
Yeah.
Because I was running from this monster my whole life. Once and then so I was talking to a professional, and she says, Jeff, your story is off the charts. And I was telling her I wanted to go out and share with kids and people that, that I know that are struggling out there. And I see a lot of them, and I know some of them and stuff. And I said, I would love to get my message out there that there's hope for you, focus on what you can do and manage around your shortcomings. And so that's what I wanted to start with this journey. So she goes, okay. I said, but no, I never told anyone I have this. And I'm very uncomfortable even, going out and, doing anything anymore, because when you're the boss and, you're calling the shots, you know what your plan is going to be. Now you go to some place, I mean, you don't know. Well, you got to be careful what word you use, because they might not understand it. So you have to spell it for them. And it's like, I couldn't get the words out that, I don't know how to spell that word. I can now. But once that book was published, I kid you not, I was a different person.
Wow.
Completely different person. And to this day, I come home about a week after the book was published, and my wife says, what is up with you? I go, what do you mean? And I knew exactly what she meant. She goes, you're like a different person. And to that day, and every day it's almost like getting better. I mean, but so I have nothing to hide, and I'm, instead of, going against the tide, I'm going with the tide now, and I'm using this and as an advantage to, achieve the goal that I want to achieve. So that's kind of the overview of why we're here and what I'm doing these days. And so, I don't, fortunately, I don't have any deadlines or anything like this to meet. I'm just going, as it feels natural to go. And I wrote the book, and I'm getting amazing feedback from that. It's achieving what I was hoping to achieve. People always say, Jeff, how's the sales going? And I say, I have no idea. I never look. But I said, I don't really care. I didn't about the sales of the book, but I can tell you the book is beyond what I was hoping for it to do. I mean, every day I run into someone. I was at the bank yesterday, and I give out hundreds and hundreds of books. I mean, I've got a car full and I just almost throw them out the window. But, I go into Starbucks every day and all these different places, and I always look around and I go, this person looks like, they might enjoy this book. And so I get these books out. And the one interesting thing about the whole thing, people, they look at, oh, wow, can you sign it? I've never signed one book. And why not? How come? I might actually start doing them for a different reason, but I didn't do this like to pound my chest. I just did this, to achieve, what I wanted to achieve, so I don't look at me being anything, special, why I should sign this book one way or another on it. But it has been really, really good. It's getting the message out there. I have opportunities to go speak all the time. Going to now, they're getting larger and larger. The school boards are finding out about it, and they're having me coming in and speak at some of the largest school boards here, and lots of different places, larger type places. And that's really my challenge right now. Is I said to myself early on when I started this, I go, Jeff, if you can turn one kid's life around, this whole thing will be worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's true. I'm getting ready at this library event at the city of San Diego. Once a year, they have new authors in there and stuff. And so I'm getting ready for a speaking thing up there. And I'm thinking what I'm going to say. I was going to use that line. And it just dawned on me. I said, Jeff, you have tens of millions of signals that you've built out there. And you want to save one kid's from not, for their learning disabilities. I think you can do better than that, I'm telling myself. I go, okay, 1 million kids. So that's my journey, is if I can touch 1 million kids, or the parents, and all of the above, because now that I've been out there so much and I've been thinking about kids the whole time, it's the parents that I can probably help more, and ultimately help the kid, the child more too, because, I walked this. I know what it's like. It's just like yesterday. I remember step by step, what I had to do to get around this situation. And so I just feel there's all these different things going on out there about dyslexia and learning disabilities, and lots of help and all these things. I didn't know I had dyslexia. Am I talking too much?
No,
I
it's
think
fine.
so.
Yeah.
We'll pull in things if we have follow-up questions.
Okay, so just
Feel free
tell
to
me to shut up
explain.
if I need to. So I do love, when I get into it, I do love telling the story. So
Yeah.
so at 40 years old, I was reading something about dyslexia. I know that's one of the questions you were going to ask me when
when
the
was
first
it?
time. I was 40 years old and I saw some stuff. I think it was Tom Cruise or something, or, whatever it was saying, it was dyslexic, or, whatever it was. And so I looked it up and I go, oh, there's a place here, the Gift of Dyslexia, that works with people, kids and adults, to help them out with this. And so I checked it out, called, made an appointment, and it was went to it was a retired school teacher out in Fallbrook, about 45 minutes from here. I went to their house, and anyway, she tested me. It took about 2 minutes, what she did it. I'm sure it's way different these days. But anyway, she goes, you are a classic example of dyslexia. And then, she's telling me, I don't even know what all this means. She's like telling me, blah, 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 this is why, and this is how your brain operates, and all these things. And so I signed up for her program. 40 hours. She says, it's going to be really hard. This is like no nonsense. It's going to be difficult. I'm not going to kid you. 40 hours, Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, solid 8 hours a day. I've had, up to that point, about 2 headaches in my whole life. I would drive home, and I kid you not, I thought my head was going to explode from, it was just pounding headache. I mean, it was, I went through this. I learned a whole lot, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I walked out of there the same person I walked in there. and then also learned, and I know now that, catching this at an early stage, there's a lot that can be done, and but the older you are, the more difficult it is to really get any help. So
was that the Davis method then that you did?
I don't think it was called that. It was the gift of dyslexia. The actual person that put this together was Charles Schwab.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And he was dyslexic at an early age, and he worked through it somehow or another, or pretty much, I guess. But anyway, so he wanted to do something. Anyway, he put together this. I don't know if the gift of dyslexia is still around or not, but and then I went to a couple other places, like Bright Star was a name. They did this thing with computers sitting there. You follow the lights and do all these things. None of it helped me out one way or another. I just, I said, I'm not doing too bad just the way it is, and I just move forward, and here we are.
I was going to say, I was curious about that actually, because along the way you were compensating in some way, right? Because I mean, you're so successful, and so like, how do you or did you compensate for the reading?
Well, number one, I never ever thought about what I couldn't do. 100% thought about what I could do, but I'm a really dedicated hard worker. I've always been that way. But I look at stuff, and I always look at almost everything and look at it and go, that's pretty good, but I would have done it this way. And so I've got very, that's just how my brain kind of is always worked. And I think part of being in school and just not being able, like the other kids, I was really motivated to be like, I wanted to be successful, and really motivated to be able to feel good about myself. And I think this is a big deal for me, for the kids. I mean, I don't try to tell them this is what they need to do. I tell them my story, and what I thought was important to me is I had to figure out what I could do and focus on what I couldn't do. And, that led eventually to it was success at small stages when I was in school, being able to make things that other kids couldn't make. And I mean, pretty large things like sand buggies or stuff are never used. And I get an old car and take the body off it and make a new frame and put all this stuff on there. When I was in high school, I used to sell these things. Yeah, so I don't, I never looked at it as a crutch. I never even thought about it. I didn't know what I had, which I kind of think like now, early on, I've been hearing for years now, about, dyslexia and all this stuff, and the parents and all this stuff. And I go, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I was never labeled. And sometimes I think sometimes these labels, especially when the doctors go in, there's so many things they say, and I hear the parents and they're freaking out and they're doing all this stuff, and I, geez, I don't know. I'm not an expert, and I don't judge it one way or another. I can only share with them, my story, and I knew that I very right brain sided, and and I didn't know that at the time, but I mean, learning some of this stuff, going through the training that I tried to get and what have you, that it said you got like a really your right side of your brain is like kicking butt over here. The other side we got to get working, but and like I said, I never talked about it. People that worked with me, my last assistant, I always surrounded myself with really smart people, and I had, when I sold my company, I had 500 employees. But I mean, I just knew what I could do. I mean, I'm a big picture guy. I look at everything like I'm in a airplane looking down at a blue ocean, and I can see, okay, if I'm going to get to the other side there, I'm going to have to build a bridge, and I could probably span a bridge by 300 feet or whatever, and I'm going to build this bridge to get to the other side. I can figure out. I look at the big picture that I want, and I can figure out how to get to the top of the mountain the best way, and how to do these things. And so I do kind of, when I talk to kids and stuff, is I said, everything seems to be impossible. You get up to the bottom of a mountain, you look way up there, and you, oh, I could never make it up there. And I know I told myself that many times, and but as I tell the kids, it's one step at a time. Just put one foot in front of the other, whether you're climbing a mountain or whatever it is, and just keep moving, and you're going to probably get where you want to go.
So do you feel like you would say that you, like in the work environment, that you leaned more on your visual artistic skills? So instead of like maybe writing long technical designs, you would sketch something or draw a picture, that kind of thing? Or
you wouldn't be able to read what I would write. I can't spell very good at all. I can read better than I can spell because, I'm used to seeing words after all these years. And, and so if it's a different type of word, like if it's a medical type thing or something like that, I just throw the paper down. But I mean, especially if it's a business like a Wall Street Journal or something like that, I know probably 80% of the words. I wouldn't know how to spell them, but if it's in a sentence, I know what would be coming, so I can read them. But yeah, at work and what have you, I had assistants, one at a time, and they wouldn't be in the same room as me. Typically they'd be like in an office right next to me. And so I would just dictate everything.
Yeah.
And, I would write notes down, my notes that, I could read my language pretty good most of the time, but I would write, notes and things down. Of course, now, there's so many tools. I mean, the things I used to sweat over, I mean, people don't have pens and pencils anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because your book is called Success is a Special Need. I wonder if you could talk about the book in general, but also that title. It's such an interesting title.
Yeah, it is. And, kind of not, I had a ghostwriter in Atlanta that I dictated this whole thing to. So, I mean, he knew, he was great to work with. And, but the title was, for getting down to the end there, I had, ideas, and he had ideas. But he actually goes, based on the book that you've put together, and now that I know you're, it was like 9 months working together with him, not full time, but I mean, it was really hard for me to go back and replay everything. Because I mean, there was doors that I haven't been through for a long time, and and I would get to the next door, and sometimes it would be a day or two later, and I go, oh, I remember this, and this and this, and it kept going. And those, I think a lot of those doors were doors that were very painful at the time. So I think I probably, put a lock on them not to go there again. And so success is, for me, I look at that more and more all the time. And Alan, the ghostwriter, he came up with it. He goes, I just, your story, this just kind of fits with a story here that, success was like really important to you. It wasn't trying to build something that, you want to brag about. You were, you needed that success in your life to be whole for you. You just you needed something, and you weren't going to be able to be a school teacher, you weren't going to be able to be a doctor, you weren't going to be able to do anything. Reading and writing is going to come into play, which is most jobs. I mean, and certainly with what I was looking for. Everyone's different. I mean, as I tell people, I said, I don't care if you want to drive a trash truck or be a mailman or a woman, or, be a doctor or a school teacher, or I don't care what career you are. It's about putting your best foot forward and being successful at whatever you strive to do. And if you're successful, you're going to feel that way. And that success normally, if you I think most of the success for most successful people, for me, I will tell you, it comes from my heart. It comes from inside. I had no intentions to build this incredibly big company. I thought if I could make some traffic signals, because I was installing them and being an electrician, that I go, geez, it's kind of silly that, we can't get these. I'm pretty sure I can make these things. It's about, being successful, and it comes in all forms and what have you. So I thought the book, the message I'm trying to get across, yes, I tell the story about this incredible success I have, but I didn't do that to beat my chest. I did that was to try to give hope, for those that are struggling to realize that, you can have success, and no matter, what you're dealing with here with the learning disabilities in particular.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's such an important message for sure.
And and I like how you that focus on what the strengths, really, like that's something we talk about a lot on this show too, is that the focus, not that there isn't the piece where it is sometimes remediation and or different techniques to learn to read, but the focus on the strengths is so important. So
tell me about the journey that you guys are on. Is it still like, with young people that are diagnosed at an early stage, the success rate is probably pretty high, that, at least there can be quite a bit of improvements that can be made.
Yeah, so I think, it's interesting. Yes, it's gotten a lot better. There's a lot more support, a lot more recognition, since the 50s and 60s. But the reason that we started this podcast is because, and I think it was something you said a little while back about supporting parents. That was the same reason for us. So we experienced this as parents. Neither of us are dyslexic, and but our daughter is. And so as we were going through this journey, we realized there's just not a lot of information out there. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of confusing information. And so our goal, I think, is similar to yours. It's really just if we can help, it started like if we can help one kid with dyslexia, feel better about themselves and so on, that that's really our goal with this. And we felt that talking to the parents would be the best approach there. It turns out that there's actually quite a few dyslexic people themselves who enjoy our podcast as well, particularly this series of Dyslexic Voices, talking to people like yourself who have lived the experience. It's really compelling for a lot of people to hear that, because every individual is unique, obviously, but there's so many similarities that there are some fairly universal aspects to growing up and living with dyslexia.
And then I think another piece of it, I think there's been a combination of frustration and a lot of hope at the same time, because some of the frustration has been, when school, particularly, schools and things have still not progressed really far but I feel like maybe just around now, there's maybe a turning point. There's a lot of new technology coming out now. Even we just talked to someone who has a product that uses AI coming out. I think there may be finally be starting to be
Mhm.
the shift. So it's like a combination of like frustration and hope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I've been you're probably listening to some of the same stuff. I mean, I've been listening to some of this, and I go, "Holy crap!" man. It's
Yeah.
I think there's awareness out there, and there's the people that have the ability to use the technologies that are available today, and things are. I think things are definitely moving in the right direction, but I think it's a long, long journey here, and I think the number one thing that would be helpful that I've just learned since I wrote the book to tell the story, but you know, just I've nothing to hide anymore. I feel like a different person. Is this would be like the first big step of turning their life around? Say, and this is really why, the big part of my book is look at this guy. He's as dyslexic as all get up. I mean, I got stories in the book that tells you I didn't know how to spell my mom's name at 20.
Mhm.
yeah.
And don't hide these things. We're all different.
Mhm.
I should have wore the shirt. I got these t-shirts, black t-shirts I'd made up. And big, big letters, real bright blue, be you.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
said, we're all different.
Mhm.
We look different. We're different sizes and all these different things. Some of us just have different learning, abilities. We don't learn the same way. And just, don't hide from it and just embrace it. Just say, yes, unfortunately, I don't have I just don't have the ability to write these things, so I can, I can text you here or I can do this or do that, or whatever. But just be okay of being you.
Yeah.
I think that's like 50%, you know, help for these kids,
Yeah.
is just to be you. And I think I'm just one of the things I'm doing in my office. I mean, I've got a big filming room and all this stuff going to be going in there. But I think that, what I can bring to the table is I'm walking
Mhm.
example of this stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And to be able to say, just be able to tell them, just be you. If they have a problem with it, that's not your problem. That's their problem. Just
Yeah.
you can tell yourself, say, I'm sure glad I'm not like that.
Well, I think it's so powerful
Mm.
and so vulnerable of you to share how it felt for you to be public about this.
Yeah.
After hiding it or masking it is, I think, the term that people often use for so many years.
Yeah. Yeah. And people, I mean, that have known me my whole life. I mean, I started to tell the story, and I think I got sidetracked with one of my assistants of 23 years, almost 25 years. I said, I need your help. I need you to proofread this book. I can't, and so she did. She read the book, and she come in, she goes, Jeff, I sat beside you 25 dang years, and I didn't know.
Huh. Interesting.
But yeah, I think that's a gift that I can pass on, that's really what I want to do, is pass on to others and just realize that,
Mhm.
find out what you are good at. You like you got a daughter. How affected do you think she is dyslexia?
It's, I would say, medium level,
Moderate.
moderate. Yeah.
How old is she?
She's 18 now, so she made it through high school.
Okay. Yeah. Well, she's been through the hardest part by far.
Mhm.
But uh, I can say that because if I'm 18, I've already established myself, and I'm like doing all these things, but going through school and stuff, I think, it's all these other kids around and stuff, you feel a little bit less than, but I I'm learning a lot about, really what's going on in the world today with the kids and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So it's very intriguing to me, and I really want to know more and more. And it's there's a lot of good things, but you know that a lot of things haven't changed at all. And but I'm sitting there thinking, you know, I learned how to weld. My neighbor happened to be a welding supervisor and worked nighttime. So in the daytime, he was making sand buggies and doing all this stuff, and he was welding. He taught me. I knew how to weld as well as he did at 12 years old. And so Santa Claus brought me a welder, and when I was 13, and I never. I mean, I probably welded for a week straight, not stopping. And I knew, but I knew how to do all these things. I mean, it was like I'm like walking with my head up high, you know, and I
it's
just
really
focus on that stuff. So I think kids and young adults and stuff, if they can find a passion that they're good at, you know, whatever it is, and they can focus on what they're good at, is that success. That's the deal in the book. That's the success that can turn your life around.
Yeah, and it's really a tribute to your parents in supporting you in that interest. Like I don't know how many parents would buy a welder for a 13-year-old, right?
Well, they didn't know I mean, they knew I wasn't a good I hated school, and that, you know, I wasn't good at reading and writing and stuff, but they had no idea the extent of it. I mean, I had two brothers that are 3 and 4, and they knew my brother. I mean, we never talked about it, but and I never talked about dyslexia. I didn't even know till I was 40, but I mean, we never talked about what I couldn't do. But my parents could see that I had the ability to do these things that, you know, my brothers couldn't even think about doing, or you know, most people, even my dad, couldn't do some of this stuff. And so, you know, I was kind of the superstar, so to speak. And so I had, this anything I could do. It'd be fortunate that, you know, my parents, they recognized my talents. And you think about this. I have brothers 3 and 4 years older. We all live in the same house, drink the same water, eat the same food, and all this stuff. And we're all different as can be. But for my parents to, you know, take the youngest, and I mean, I was on a pedestal, but I climbed that pedestal.
See.
And my brothers and I had never talked about it, but just a couple of weeks ago, when I was sitting down with my oldest brother, he's the only one that's around anymore, that's alive, and he goes, "Jeff, you told the story," and he goes, "You told it just like exactly the way it was." And you know, to this day, our parents, you know, our in between brother Gene, he died of ALS when he was 58. He goes, he's talking about all the time. He goes, "This guy's got powers and can do stuff that, you know, all the rest of us could never figure out if we were all pulling in the same direction." But I, you know, I never talked about them. I mean, I would just go along doing my job. We never had any conversations about anything. It was just when we got older, my parents got older and was retiring and stuff. We're putting Jeff in charge of the company. I mean, I mean, my mom they were both my biggest cheerleaders. My mom, more so. I mean, you know, she just, you know, I think she understood that I struggled more than my dad did, you know. So.
Well, I think it's about time to wrap up. We really appreciate you sharing your story with us. And I guess last question is, where can people get a copy of your book?
On Amazon. Yeah, I appreciate that, passing that on. You can just, you know, they put Jeffrey L. McCain in there. It'll Amazon will pop up, so you can get it in audio form.
Okay, and we'll put a link
and or, you know, a hardback or Kindle or whatever, and so that's there. And then there's always jeffreylmccain.com, my email, and so you can use any of those. And
sounds like you're available for speaking engagements as well sometimes. Or
I've got several of them already booked, and I will be doing I love getting up there and talking to people, and and then asking questions and stuff. So I'll probably be doing speaking engagements a couple times a week. And I like getting out smaller groups, and some going visiting schools and things of that nature. And I sometimes bring traffic signal lights in there,
Oh, yeah.
full traffic signal lights for the kids, and feel holy
Yeah.
mackerel, they're that big. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you ever some opportunity or something, and you see in the future that you think that I could might be beneficial for me to be there or talk to them or whatever, and pass it on. I appreciate that, and I admire you guys for your journey.
Well,
Thank you.
thank
It's
you.
it's great to see and know that there's people out there that are trying to help in this very I mean, it's when you think about it, I don't know what percentage you think of people have learning disabilities.
Well, the numbers I've seen are around 20% have dyslexia.
It has a
Um,
spectrum, the
yeah,
spectrum, full spectrum.
and then
But then
yeah,
once you
when
add other ones in, I
stuff,
don't know. I haven't
it's
seen the numbers when it's total.
Yeah, 20% is the number that I always see, and what have you.
Mhm.
I was talking to the head of all of San Diego education system here that had contacted me, and he just was new on the job, and he's got a lot of learning to do. But
yeah.
I was asking, we were talking about, I was asking, well, how many kids do you think are, in the school district that have problems or whatever? He goes, well, yeah, actually, I don't know. I said, well, how many kids are in the district there? And he goes, well, there's um, uh, 8,000 kids that are in all of San Diego. And I said, well, no, in his district was 800 kids. And so I said, geez, I go, well, you take 20% of that. And these are the ones that are, are having, issues. And he goes, yeah, he goes, I don't know. I think there's 20% too, but the state of California keeps telling us there's only, um, there's less than that, it's like, 12%.
Yeah.
And
That's their late
Yeah.
but
diagnosis.
I tell you what, when I take that book around and when I give it to people that I don't even know, they sit there and look at the cover and they say, oh my God, I can't believe it's my son's dyslexic. I'm dyslexic, or whatever the case might be. I would say it's at least 50%.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's 50% of the population out there, but there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow.
All right. Well, it was
let's,
great
yeah.
doing this,
Yeah.
and good luck with your journey, and hopefully we will cross paths again.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very
so
much.
much for
All right. Bye.
sharing your wisdom.